Welcome back. All right, I got an A7R5, and I know I said I don't do videos about $6,000 cameras. Well, I'm not. It's a $4,000 camera. And I did a photo shoot comparing it to the A7 III. You'll see that in a minute too. That'll be fun. But first, a word from our sponsor, Squarespace. Just kidding. It's not Squarespace. It's Storyblocks. Not. As you know, I returned the overhyped A4 and kept my trusty A7 III. I've taken tens of thousands of pictures with the A7 III, and it's never let me down. So why would I want to upgrade? I don't need more megapixels. I'm more than happy with 24. I don't use it for video. I don't even shoot in 4K when I do. So why would I need a newer camera? Well, three things. First of all, and most of all for me, the viewfinder. Once you look through this viewfinder, you will never go back to another camera ever again. This viewfinder has 9.5 million pixels. The only other camera ever made by Sony that has that many pixels in a viewfinder is the A1, and that's ridiculously priced. So the viewfinder it's like looking into a whole nother dimension. It's just amazing. The second thing is better eye tracking autofocus. It's got the latest best focus. Now I use the A7Cs for video and I use the A7 III for pictures, but the A7R5 excels at both pictures and video. And it doesn't overheat and it doesn't have a time limit for running video. The A7 III shuts off after about 30 minutes, but for me, it shuts off after 15 minutes because it overheats or whatever. It's not really made for video. It's made for pictures, but the A7R5 does both fabulously. And thirdly, and most important for me, the color. As you know, I returned the overpriced A1 because I hated the color. I wanted the colors from the A3, but with the insane viewfinder from the A1 and the latest greatest eye tracking autofocus. Both the A3 and the R5 have better color than the A1. Both have touchscreens, mic port, headphone jack, eye tracking autofocus, and sensor shift stabilization. But it's better in the R5. This is where we start with the differences between these two cameras. The R5 has a 61 megapixel sensor, which is insane. I don't need that many megapixels. The A7 III has 24, which is fine for me. But where this camera excels, the A7R5, the pictures look sharper, and you're going to think, oh, it's because it's more megapixels. Not necessarily. The real reason the pictures look sharper on the A7R5 is because this does not have an anti-aliasing filter. It makes the pictures just pop. It does 8K, which I never use. Ridiculous. I don't even use 4K. The A7 III does 4K. I don't care. I don't do either of those. I do everything in 1080p. So the A7R5 has the latest, greatest eye tracking autofocus, plus vehicle tracking and the all-important insect tracking autofocus. Both do 120 frames per second. Both are weather sealed. The R5 weighs more than the R3. But you know what? Let's stop the talking. Let's take these upstairs and actually take some real pictures with both and compare with the same lens, the same model, side by side, and let's see the differences between the A7R5 and the A7 III. I'm going to use the same lens and the exact same settings on both cameras, and let's start with a 55 1.8. Here's the A7 III. It looks pretty good. This is what I've been using for years, so yeah, it looks pretty good. And here's the A7R5. The A7 III, A7R5. At first, they seem kind of similar, but after a few moments, you start to realize the A7 III colors are a little warmer. The A7R5 colors here seem a little bit more bluer, a little cooler. It's not bad, it's just different. Both the A7 III and the A7R5 have better colors to me than the A7 IV and the A1. So both of these cameras I'm testing have good colors. Just a matter of you like it a little warmer or you like it a little cooler. The color difference is subtle, but the real difference is when you zoom in. Look at this. Here's the A7 III. And here's the A7R5. Look at the detail. Look how sharp that is. That's again because it does not have an anti-aliasing filter. Now, either way is not bad. The A7 III has warmer colors and is a little softer, which is very pleasing for portraits and people. The A7R5 is a little cooler and a lot sharper. Both have a nice look. It's just a matter of preference. Personally, I like the warmer colors of the A7 III, but you really can't see what you're getting through the viewfinder. I need the viewfinder of the A7R5. All right, let's switch to a second setup here. Here's the A7 III with a 35mm 1.8 set at 1.4. And here's the A7R5. And here's another one with the A7R5. Here's the A7 III, the A7R5. All right, let's switch to a third setup real quick while the sun is going down. Back to the 55 1.8. Here's the A7 III. That's pretty good. Here's another one with the A7 III. And here's the A7R5. The differences might be subtle, but when you look at the pictures on a big screen, you really see the difference.
It's sharper and somehow creamier looking.
Here's the A7 III again. Here's the A7R5. A7 III, the A7R5. All right, so that's the A7R5. This is the first camera I've found that I may switch up to from the A7 III. I don't know yet. Maybe. The LCD on the back on the R5 is 156% higher resolution on the back of the LCD, which, by the way, flips out, which is great. Everybody like, oh, and you can do the tilt screen too. So you can do like the tilt. The A7 III only has tilt. It doesn't flip out. So it's a big deal to a lot of people to flip out. It's not a deal breaker for me. I don't care either way. It's good. Both cameras have sensor shift stabilization. The R5 has 3 stops more effective stabilization, so it's a little better in stabilization, even though they both have stabilization. The R5 has gyroscopic post stabilization, so you can stabilize your stuff in Catalyst Browse. The A7 III does not have gyroscopic, so you have to just use whatever, the lens and the camera combination. Oh, and the A7 V has... Get this. This is something I have not seen on a camera in the last 15 years. It has an old school flash sync port for off-camera flash. This is like what they used in the old days. Nowadays, everybody just uses a hot shoe, but they figure, well, let's put it in there because this is if people are going to take photography seriously, let's put an old school flash shoe port in there. That's pretty amazing. Haven't seen that in a long time. And please don't tell me to try Canon because of the color science. I did. I just returned the $4,500 R5C and I gave away the R7. I shoot 1080p and Canon suck at 1080p. They're made for 4K and for shooting in log and LUTs and all that, which I hate. It requires grading. I hate that. Even though the R5 comes with the great S-Cinetone color profile log that the Hollywood Venice cameras use, I don't need it. Everything looks great right out of the camera. That's what I want. I don't want to use grading and logs and LUTs. I just want to just take a picture of the video and it looked great. I don't have to do anything right out of the camera. And the A7S III, this is a video camera. It's only got a 12 megapixel sensor. It's not really meant for pictures. The viewfinder is only 6,000K. This is 9,500K. It's a great camera for videos. And I did use it for pictures New Year's Eve at a restaurant and at the party because it was low light. But this is a video camera. So speaking of video, let's look at some samples. Here's video taken with the A7 III. Now these are just 1080p. Of course, things are going to look better if they're 4K or 8K, but I shoot everything at 1080, so these are my tests. And here's the A7R5. It's a little sharper, but not as warm. And here's video taken with the A7S III. All right, here's some low light video, A7 III, A7R5, and the A7S III. And here's some really low light, just one candle. Here's the A7 III, surprised. Here's the A7R5 and the A7S III. Surprisingly, all of them do pretty good in low light. Under proper lighting conditions, the video quality is pretty darn comparable with all three. The A7 III just can't run video as long, and the A7R5 is just a little on the blue side. The video quality on the A7R5 does go up to 8K again, which I'm never going to use, but it does that. The A7Cs these are great video cameras. That's why I have several of them. I use these for video. They run forever. They don't overheat. They got a flip out screen. They have a viewfinder. It's not that great of a viewfinder. It's only like 2,500 K, which is the exact same viewfinder as the A7 III. That's the thing that bothered me the most about the A7 III and the A7Cs. Is the viewfinder. I mean, it has one, and if you need, in a pinch, it'll be great if you need to use it. That's why I'm excited about this new baby here. So are there any downsides to the A7R5? Well, it costs $4,000, but there's a reason for that. You get what you pay for. This is one of the best picture taking cameras with the best viewfinder you can possibly get. It shoots amazing video, 8K, which I'm never going to use. It's a great camera. There's a reason it costs what it does. As far as downsides, there aren't many. Some people might say it's too sharp. I mean, you're going to see every skin pore, every wrinkle, every imperfection in your face. It's going to be like in full display, but yet it's easier to shoot something in high res, fully sharp, and then downscale it and soften it up a bit in Photoshop or After Effects or Lightroom or whatever, than it is to shoot in a camera that's lower res and then try to up res it with some kind of AI software, which is never going to be as good as shooting in full glorious, sharp detail in the beginning and then softening it up later. So that should not be a deal breaker because it's easy to soften up pictures.
One thing I did notice though is that if you adjust your exposure based on what you see in the viewfinder, the pictures usually come out too light. In other words, the picture is lighter than what you see in the viewfinder. So don't just base your exposure on what you see in the viewfinder. Make the picture a little darker than what you want.
So that's my little rundown on the A7R5. The colors are a little too bluish for me, so for video, I'm going to stick with my two A7Cs for the time being. But for pictures, I'm torn between the colors of the A7 III and the viewfinder and the autofocus of the A7R5. I don't know. For both pictures and video, you need a good viewfinder, and this is the best you can get. And, I mean, come on, 61 megapixels is a little overkill. So you've got more than enough of everything. It's got dials all over the place. It's got a dial in the front, 2 dials on top, a joystick and a dial in the back. So that's 5 dials on this body. It's got everything. It's awesome. So I highly recommend it. I know it's expensive. Don't feel bad if you can't afford it. Like I said, you don't need all these fancy cameras. And you're probably thinking, well, if you've got all these fancy cameras here, what are you shooting this video with? Well, that's my point. I'm not shooting this video with an expensive fancy camera. I'm actually shooting this video, and everything you've seen so far was with the Samsung NX500. It's a camera they don't even make anymore. It's an APS-C camera, and that's what this is shooting. Look at this. Look how great this looks. This is the Samsung NX500. It's a couple $100 on eBay. I mean, you don't need a fancy camera to do great video. So don't feel bad if you can't afford any one of these ones. Somebody asked me to do a video on the A7R5 because I don't get free loaner cameras from camera companies so to make glowing reviews and things. I buy everything and I tell it like it is. If I hate it, I hate it. And if I like it, I like it. So I tell you what it is, and that's why I did this video, because somebody asked me to make the video. So there you go. All right. Well, okay. That's my thing for today. Hopefully you got something out of it, and ask me anything. Maybe I'll make a review of it. Maybe not. Maybe because I do what I want. Anyway, so I'll see you next week. Until then, have a good one. Bye-bye.